Hey, I'm Mark Estes, President and CEO of VisitorReach, and I want to take a few minutes to share some super important, helpful tips that are going to help you in connecting with people using the VisitorReach app. It's going to be easy, fun, and meaningful. And remember, every person that's reaching out is on their own journey to finding God and community. They've taken a big step by sharing their name and their contact information, hoping that there's someone on the other end who actually cares. Think about Jesus for a moment. He always took time for an individual, no matter how busy he was. You think about blind Bartimaeus or Zacchaeus in the tree, or even the thief on the cross. He showed us that what it means to love people right where they are. And when he said for us to love our neighbor as ourselves, he meant every neighbor, every person that he sends our way. And you know, every person who reaches out to VisitorReach, they have their own struggles and their own stories and their own hopes. They're reaching out to us in hope that we as a church might be the community that they're longing for. And so our role as pastors and leaders is to take the time for the one, just like Jesus did. So I want to walk through top 10 communication tips that I encourage you to use while using the VisitorReach app. And I think it's going to help making these connections with these people truly meaningful. Number one is this: lead with relationship, not just with an invite. Most people, they've reached out to connect with you, not just to receive an invitation to an event. They can find that information on your website. We know that it's going to take 12 to 15 interactions before someone might feel comfortable attending. So aim at building a one-on-one relationship with each person that God brings your way. Number two is this: respond to a text as soon as possible. When someone texts you, try to respond within 10 minutes if you can. Our research is telling us that 92% of people will respond back if you connect within that time frame. But if you wait more than 24 hours, that response rate drops to 25%. This tells us that people are thinking about their lives or their questions or their struggles in that moment. And the longer that you wait, the more likely it is that they're just going to move on to something else. Number three is this: schedule dedicated time to respond to your messages. We're all busy, I get that. But if we don't have a routine, it's easy to overlook these amazing people who are waiting for someone to reach out. So here's just a few ideas to keep within your mind as you respond to these messages. Number one is try this. Try the 5x5 plan. Find 5 times a day to spend 5 minutes reading and responding to the messages. Here's another idea. Use in-between moments. In other words, take a couple minutes between a meeting, before you go to lunch, maybe before you go home from work, to open up the app and respond. Also, you might want to have an after-hour strategy. And this is where so many people today are reaching out. It's after typical office hours. So you might want to consider just finding just a few minutes in the evening to connect. Or you might even want to set up a team to help with some of those evening responses. But here's another thing to consider, number 4, is that introduce yourself early in the conversation. Using your first name is so important, especially without a title. It's a simple way to make your conversation personal. I've found that titles like pastor, they can create a barrier. But if you start and end with your name, it keeps things very friendly and very approachable. Here's another idea, number 5, is be intentional to acknowledge what people are sharing. You're going to find rather quickly that people will start sharing personal, intimate issues that they're facing. Please take the time to read what they're saying and respond with empathy, with discernment, and heartfelt care. Typing out a heartfelt reply is going to make a world of difference. Sadly, we had one pastor at a church who was using our app, and he responded to a person that had shared that their child was dying of cancer, and they gave them an emoji, a thumbs up emoji. Can I just say this? Please don't be that guy. But here's another idea, number 6, is send micro responses and not macro responses. Most people, they don't want to read an essay in a text message. Aim for texts that are about 160 characters or less, and I think this is going to keep the conversation lively and engaging. You might even consider adopting what we call the 3 A's of effective texting. The first A is simply this: acknowledge. In other words, acknowledge their text and send a response. The second A is address. Address the question or comment, then send another text. The third A is ask. Always finish your communication with a question or another text with a question. This is key. Hear me out here. You want to give them a reason to respond back. And this is how we keep these conversations moving forward and keep them healthy. You might want to ask them questions like this, like, how long have you lived in the area? Maybe you're going to ask them a question like, how can I pray for you? Or have you attended our church before or a church before? Can I meet you in the lobby when you arrive? Or does what I shared with you make sense? Or maybe something like, what do you believe? In other words, ask questions. Number 7 is this: use quick replies as often as possible. And these quick replies, they've been designed to give people the absolute best response in the shortest amount of time. And if you look closer, what you're going to see is that they're also set up to send in a specific order. And we have found that if you follow these sequences, you're going to have a much higher response rate. Number 8, share resources for those in need. You know, the more that we make the community aware of our church, the more those in need will make their needs known to your church. Please remember, these are real people that have real needs that God has placed in your path. You're never too busy for them. Let us not be like the disciples who saw their need and told Jesus, send them away. But let us be like Jesus who said, no, you bring them to me. And listen, I understand that you might not be able to help every person with every need, but you can definitely direct them to someone who can, right? So I would recommend that you have a list of maybe groups or ministries in your church that can serve them. Put them in your quick replies. It might be something like Celebrate Recovery or a counseling center or a grief group. You get my point. But also have a list of resources specific to your community in your quick replies. It might be something like a 211.org, or maybe it's a local food pantry or rental or utility assistance hotlines. Those are things that would be really important. But number 9 is say a quick prayer for every person when you send a text. Never underestimate the power of a short prayer. Just take 15, 30 seconds to pray over each person that you're texting with. And what it does, it invites God into the conversation, and it will make a difference in the way that we may never see. And then number 10, be prepared for their first visit because they will come. Here's the good news. I'm convinced if you implement the previous 9 tips, that people will visit your church. And when they do, make it a priority to find a way to connect with them when they arrive. And so send them a text and tell them that you want to meet them when they come. Or maybe what you can do is that you can just be waiting for them. We had a lady at a church who sent a text, beautiful story. She said, Tim, I'm excited to be here. I just walked into your lobby and I would love to meet you. I'm the African-American lady standing by the information counter. I'm wearing a gold sweater. Do you see me? Here's what she is saying. I want to be seen, I want to be known, and I don't want to do it alone. One VR church had a person assigned to an info counter every single week with the sole purpose to connect with people that were showing up. And so that way, whether you're there at church or not at the weekend or busy doing something else, there always is someone there to love them when they come. Listen, I sure hope that these few minutes together have been really helpful for you. I do want to finish with this closing thought. You might be the only Jesus that they engage with today. So let's make it our aim to make them a priority and to never be too busy for the one. Hey, thanks again for partnering with us. Listen, we're here to serve you in any way that we can. God bless you, and we'll be praying for you. Have a blessed day.